Hey y'all, this is Daniel. Again, welcome to another episode of Blunt Talk where we tell you nothing but the truth. Thank you for joining us. And basically, I wanted to say a few things real quick that you guys should be staying tuned for like the future episodes that are going to be coming out because we're going to be jumping into different sports now, like hockey and more about American football. So, like, if you're interested in that, please check it out. And yeah, I'll keep you guys updated. I have the Instagram account so you guys can follow for updates and all the cover art for every episode so you guys can check that out too. And always follow me on SoundCloud and on YouTube where we post all the episodes. And without a further ado, we are going to start with episode 5 of Blunt Talk, which is basically going to be a full-on debate about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I created a little PowerPoint real quick that I'm going to add here so that I can show the viewers that are watching on YouTube. We're in this, and here we go. So first off, the first thing that you have to discuss when we talk about Michael Jordan and the LeBron James debate, the first thing that I always like to say is when people talk about it is that they didn't play the same position. Like sure, they were both players on the wing, and they both like guarded the same positions on the floor. But if you're looking at it from like an actual like positional standpoint, like what it was originally in basketball, that like the position was the thing that mattered the most. They didn't play the same position, but they're arguably like two of the greatest players that we've seen in the history of basketball. So, of course, you got the debate like happened in the last episode with me and my cousin Martin, and we debated about Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Sure, they don't play the same position, but they are two of the greatest to ever play the sport. So, comparison and the debate is inevitable. So the first thing I wanted to compare over here is like their stats. So Michael Jordan was a scoring machine. His career points per game was 30.1, and that shows you because he would have to be carrying most of those Bulls teams before they became into contention to go and win the two three-peats that he did. Rebounds per game, you got 6.2, and assists per game, you get 5.3. He was very versatile. He could get you a triple double if he had to get the win. He was a willing passer. He wasn't just of a ball hog, and he also rebounded really good for a shooting guard. Being 6'6", that's pretty impressive. Impressive in my opinion. He had a player efficiency rating of 27.9, which is really good. I'm not gonna deny it. It's a really good player efficiency rating. Efficient field goal percentage was a 50.9. Now, for a shooting guard, that's really good, and it shows because it's Michael Jordan, one of the greatest players to play the sport. Now, lastly, win shares. Win shares is a stat that determines like how much of like a win like does the player contribute or like relate to in that sense. He has 214 in win shares, which is really high because most players don't even get over 100. Now let's go on to LeBron. He averages around 27.1 points per game for his career. LeBron James is a tank. He can do it all. He's really like one of those players that you can actually depend to guard a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center if you need it to be. And he also could play all those five positions. Not only that, it is shown because he averages a 7.4 rebounds per game in his whole career, and he's averaged 7.4 assists per game. And he's a really good playmaker. Like he actually is a good decision maker with the ball, and he'll put his teammates on the spot where they need to be to make the big shot or just to get into a good shot, into their rhythm or whatever it needs to be. You can see it because in like the finals, with the teams that he had, like the Miami, like it was basically put LeBron James around a bunch of shooters, and whenever he would just dish it out to them, it would always be a shot made. Like Shane Battier, Rashard Lewis, you had Mike Miller. I can keep on going, but you understand the point. Like if you put people that know how to score, no matter where they are, with LeBron on their team, he's gonna get the ball to them and they're gonna score. A player efficiency rating of 27.5. It's like 0.4 lower than MJ's, but it's still pretty good. And he's got a higher efficiency field goal percentage, which is a 54.2. Now, it's not that hard because, well, he is 6'8", and he's taller and more heavier and stronger than Michael Jordan was, so he can get closer to the rim. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that Michael Jordan wasn't able to get closer to the rim. The man would dunk on anyone relentlessly with no remorse or mercy. So like, but I'm saying that like the height advantage can show in the differential discrepancy of the efficient field goal percentage. Now we're going on to win shares, which is the last thing statistically. He's got 236.1. LeBron James, I feel like, does a little bit more on like the assist and rebounding that is shown with stats. So that makes sense why in the win shares percentage, like that would be a little bigger than Michael Jordan's. Next, we gotta go for the accolades. First off, Michael Jordan was a 14-time All-Star. For a man that played like 14 or 15 seasons in the league, that's really impressive. Although it's a lot, it's not as much as LeBron did. LeBron in accolades for the All-Star appearances, he's got 16. And he's still playing, so that number will increase. That's the one difference. And like when you make this comparison, all these stats and all these accolades are what they are and like defining a player. But LeBron's still in the game, so he can up the tally and he can still improve like his stats and he can still improve his accolades when you think about it when you're comparing both players. Now, in the scoring department, Michael Jordan led the league in scoring 10 times, and he won the scoring championship because of that. LeBron's only done it once. LeBron isn't in like his primary objective in the game is not to be the person that scores the most, so I'm not surprised. Michael Jordan would be that person that would carry the teams always under his back scoring wise, so I'm not surprised at all to hear that he's got 10 times scoring championships behind him. They both won Rookie of the Year, which of course makes sense because it's Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Now, the MVPs that they won in the regular season is pretty close. Michael Jordan's won 5 MVPs and LeBron's won 4. So that's hard to argue which one, like it's just one MVP award in differential. Now, the one biggest thing that tarnishes LeBron, in my opinion, when in this comparison is Michael Jordan's won the championship 6 times. He did 2 three-peats. LeBron James has only won the chip 3 times. He did it 2 times in Miami. He did it back to back. And then he won it in Cleveland, his second year coming back after that Miami stint. And amazingly enough, all the times they won chips, both players have won finals MVP those same amount of times. So Michael Jordan won 6-time finals MVP, which is really impressive and really good and shows you that out of all those 6 teams that won the chip with Michael Jordan, he was the prime person in that team that the team depended on, which is obviously with the scoring and all the other factors that come into play with Michael Jordan. And the same goes for LeBron. LeBron was the prime talented player on those teams and the one that would be like the star to carry the team to push forward and to win the games in the finals. So it shows you too with his 3 championships with 3 finals appearances. Now, the things that I think are the most significant and like differentiating like the players, Michael Jordan was a 9-time all-defensive team. For those people that don't know, an all-NBA defensive team, at the end of each season, the NBA does 3 teams along with the awards they give out. They have the all-NBA teams, and those are 3 teams, like the first tier, the second tier, and the third tier. There are 2 defensive teams they do, the first team and the second team. And Michael Jordan has been on the all-defensive first-tier team uh, basically 9 times, which is pretty impressive. And the other team that they do is the all-rookie team. So automatically, if you're a rookie, you're on the all-rookie team, and they do 2 tiers for that, the first tier and the second tier. And so they both were on the all-rookie team. But as I mentioned, Michael Jordan's got 9-time all-defensive team, and he's got 11-time all-NBA team. And the all-NBA team category just goes all over, like first team, second team, and third team. Although Michael Jordan, the majority of the times, it was the first team because it's Michael Jordan. Then with LeBron James, you get 6 times all defensive team because although LeBron James is a really good defensive player, he hasn't gotten the recognition by the media and the polls and all those people to be considered an all defensive team member in those seasons, although he's done it 6 times. But he's been in the all NBA team 15 times, which is really impressive, surpasses Michael Jordan by 4. So when you look at the comparison factor, I have to give it to Michael Jordan in the awards and statistical categories because although LeBron has more rebounds, assists, and things like the effective field goal percentage and win shares, Michael Jordan just has more accolades that take over LeBron, in my opinion. And that's how the way I see it, like the scoring championship and the MVP awards and the finals appearances, because Michael Jordan, he went 6 for 6 in finals appearances. He won all the times he went there. LeBron James has only won 3 times and has lost. If I'm wrong, I hope I'm not wrong, but he's lost 5 times in the finals. That's not a good percentage. So, in my opinion, so far, basing off of the awards and basing it off all of the accolades, I gotta give it to Michael Jordan. Who had the tougher competition, Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Now, this is something I saw on Twitter the other day. I was very intrigued. It was basically someone posted saying, "Well, this is a list of all the people that that Michael Jordan has faced in his entire career, and this is a list of all the people that LeBron James has faced in their entire career." And it got me thinking, who actually had the toughest competition during their era? So here you see two pictures. First, I'm gonna assess the first picture. Now, the first picture is a list of the people that they had faced during their times. So I'm gonna start off with Michael Jordan, and I'm gonna do like a quick overview of each individual, really quick, or skip through some of them because we don't have the whole time. Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. First off, the Bad Boy Pistons were someone that was always on Michael Jordan's like path to the finals. They were in the Eastern Conference and the Detroit Pistons, and they were a team that would give Michael Jordan some problems some years. In the Last Dance documentary, if any of you guys have seen it, they go over the rivalry they have with the Pistons, the Bad Boy Pistons. If you don't want to see the Last Dance, there's also a 30 for 30 on the Bad Boys and how they won a couple championships and had to face adversity against Michael Jordan and the Jordan Rule. So that's the one thing I'm gonna say. These guys created the Jordan Rule, and if you don't know what the Jordan Rule is, the Bad Boy Pistons from that era, they basically were one of those gritty, fouling, very aggressive teams. They would basically it would be like a wrestling match every time you would play against them because they would try to outwear you and just make you get tired with all the physicality and the dirty plays that they would do. And then they created the Jordan Rule because they couldn't stop the man legally. They had to apply the Jordan Rule, which is to foul him until he can't keep playing, which is an actual thing. They hard fouled him and didn't let this man do what he needed to do, which was really crazy because at the time it was like, oh wow, so they're just going for it, and they did it, and it worked sometimes until Michael Jordan got too good and he got the supporting cast he did. So already I can say that Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, along with Bill Laimbeer, who was their center, who was decent, yeah, they were one tough competitor that Michael Jordan had faced. Next up, you get Magic Johnson, James Worthy, and I'm gonna say too Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Basically, the Showtime Lakers. The Showtime Lakers gave Michael Jordan some issues, regular season and in the playoffs. Magic Johnson was one of those like never before seen talents. Like, oh my God, he's a 6'9" point guard and he's a really good distributor. Then you get big game James Worthy. Funny enough, the man went to college and played in college with Michael Jordan, so he had like that advantage in like knowing Michael Jordan a little bit better than other opponents. So those Laker teams gave Michael Jordan a run for the money, but eventually Michael Jordan was too much for them. So that's another competitor or competitors, my bad, that I would say gave Jordan some issues. You got to go with Patrick Ewing. Now, I'm a Knicks fan, and I acknowledge Patrick Ewing has to be arguably the greatest Knick of all time. It's like you got to go with big boy Willis Reed and like Clyde, Walt Clyde, and then you got also like the Pro Monroe, and yeah. But Patrick Ewing was a dog. There was a reason that he was the number one pick in the draft, and in Georgetown he was like a legend. He's arguably the greatest Georgetown basketball player of all time, if you want to put in the debate Allen Iverson. But Patrick Ewing stayed 4 years. Nevertheless, like getting back into the topic, he was a member of the Knicks, and the man was like always facing Michael Jordan. Now, Patrick Ewing could never get over the hump. He never won a title. But if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, that story might have been different, or it just could have been the same result, but in a different way. Because Michael Jordan was always one step ahead of the New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing. So that competition was a tough competition, but they never got the best of them in reality in like the long run, or even the short run, if you want to go about it. Now, Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler was wow. The man was a dunking highlight film. No pun intended, because that's more like Dominique. And that's another person that just came to mind. Dominique Wilkins. He was a person that was like in Michael Jordan's path, even though he didn't do much because his team, the Atlanta Hawks, weren't that good. But Dominique Wilkins gave Jordan a run for his money in like the dunk contest, and he gave him a run for his money in the Eastern Conference the whole career that they played. And back to Clyde Drexler, he and the Portland Trail Blazers with Terry Porter and all those other players they had in that team, they in the finals, the few times that they matched against Michael Jordan, it was an issue because before Michael Jordan, if I'm not mistaken, they had won a title with Bill Walton, but then Michael Jordan came and all those hopes and dreams of winning championships were down the drain. Then you get Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson alongside Charles Barkley and Dan Marjorie and Tom Chambers, that Phoenix Suns team that played in the finals against Michael Jordan once. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Michael Jordan was there, so they weren't good enough, but they were really good. They were a serious issue to deal with for Michael Jordan, and you could tell because Charles Barkley was a dog, and this man was just dominating. Looking back at The Last Dance and just looking at all basketball footage, I really don't understand why people compare this man to Draymond Green. He's clearly 10 times better than Draymond Green. Now you got to talk about Shaq. Shaq faced him in the early years when he was like in the Orlando Magic, like baby Shaq, big baby Diesel. Like, bro, Orlando Magic Shaq was my favorite. But going back to the topic, this man was always in the path of Michael Jordan, and the only reason they made it to the finals was because it was the year that Michael Jordan just wasn't the same because he came back out of retirement because he had retired during his career to go chase his dream of playing in the Major League Baseball. So alongside with Penny Hardaway, these two were like a Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Showtime duo in the Orlando Magic that had its chance one time, but then it couldn't get over the hump. And then after soon later, they got destroyed because Shaq left to the Lakers. Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. These guys really are like some of the people that wish they had never ever played against Michael Jordan, because the few times, I don't know if it was multiple times or the one time that this duo made it to the finals, guess who they faced? They faced the winner out of the Eastern Conference, the Chicago Bulls, with Michael Jordan. So the whole issue was that, like, as you can see, the trend in this, like the competition that Michael Jordan faced, it's not like Jordan had an issue against the competition. Like, sure, he might have stumbled a couple times or not been successful, but sooner or later, eventually, this man just became too good for them. So, yeah, Gary Payne and Sean Kemp just weren't good enough. Akeem the Dream Olajuwon, the man needed more help because him himself with Kenny Smith, they weren't good enough. Even when they brought in people like Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley later in their careers, it just wasn't enough to get over the hump against Michael Jordan. Except the whole point was they won championships during the 90s, yes, but Michael Jordan wasn't there. So, and lastly, Karl Malone and John Stockton. Oh my goodness! If you think I said Sean Kemp and Gary Payton wish that Michael Jordan never played, yeah, I apologize. These two people have that like two times because they faced Michael Jordan two times in the finals and lost two times. It's crazy. I saw the other day a YouTube video that shows you like the timeline of like how Karl Malone and John Stockton went through the playoffs, and they struggled a lot. And when they finally became good, they faced adversity with Michael Jordan. So overall, I'd say the competition that he faced is really good because he faced a bunch of good athletes and good teams. So as of right now, assessing the situation, we gotta give it to Michael Jordan. Now let's go on to LeBron James. Well, the first person we gotta talk about is Kobe Bryant. The issue with that is, first off, rest in peace, Kobe. Like, honestly, but Kobe Bryant was like at another level compared to LeBron James. Before LeBron James came into the league, people were saying Kobe was going to be the next Michael Jordan, and he's got the accolades and all that to back it up. But LeBron James, like at his peak, well, I don't know if I even want to say his peak because he made it to the finals in 07, which was 4 years removed from him being drafted. But you get the picture. Kobe Bryant was like at another level above LeBron James when he entered the league. So he was one of the people that he faced, comparisons and all these debates and everything. So, yeah, you have to mention Kobe Bryant as a person that LeBron James had to get over. They never faced in the playoffs in the finals, sadly, but that's a good what-if situation. Now, you got Tim Duncan with Kawhi Leonard, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, and all the Spurs organization. First off, LeBron James lost to them in the 2007 finals. Yikes, because it was the Cleveland Cavaliers team that had Anderson Varejao, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Yeah, that was a horrible team he brought to the finals. But he brought them to the finals. Competition-wise, not only did they face LeBron in the finals that year, but they faced him in the 2012 and 2011 and 20 no, it's the 2011 and the 2012 finals. Yes, because they faced two times later in their career. It was the first time the Miami Heat with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh beat them. That miraculous Ray Allen corner 3-point shot after the rebound from Bosh to send it to Game 7. That series was crazy. Then you get the whole next year that the Spurs came back with revenge and Kawhi Leonard locked LeBron up and won Finals MVP. So that was a very tough competitor that LeBron James faced, and sadly, his record in the finals got tarnished. You got to talk about Paul George. Paul George and that Indiana team were very hard for LeBron to battle in his years in Miami. They were serious contenders out of the East, but they sadly could not get over the hump of LeBron James. So I'm not going to say that was tough competition, but they gave him a scare and a run for the money, so they got to be mentioned at least. Then you get Kevin Garnett with Paul Pierce and those Celtics teams. My God, those Celtics teams had LeBron's number in the Eastern Conference playoffs year after year. That's really all you can say. The big ticket, Kevin Garnett and the truth were a little bit too much. I'm keep forgetting to say Ray Allen and Ray John Rondo, but you get the gist. That Boston Celtics team and those players were just a little bit too much for LeBron James sometimes with his under-talented teams. And that's why kind of LeBron James, like the Kevin Garnett quote says, left to go to Miami because he just couldn't do it by himself in Cleveland. Not only that, you got to think about also people like Shaq. He faced Shaq a couple times, but it was in the later end of his career, so we can't really go that deep. Carmelo Anthony was a little bit of an issue for LeBron in the Eastern Conference playoffs when Carmelo was in the Knicks. He would always have to go to like a 6-7 game series against that New York team whenever they would face. But besides that, Carmelo Anthony didn't cause him too many issues. Dwayne Wade and LeBron really never met that much in the playoffs, but he was a teammate of LeBron, and if it wasn't for Dwayne Wade, then he probably would not have all those chips that he's got in Miami. But you also got to mention Dwayne Wade because they did face in conference, not in the conference playoffs, but they faced in like regular season games, and that was an opponent that was really hard for LeBron to play against. You got Dwight Howard. The 1 year Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic with Hito Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis beat LeBron James in the conference finals. Yep, that clearly shows you that it was hard for LeBron to beat a team on his own. Dwight Howard carried that Orlando Magic team, which I was very fond of and a good fan of them, to the finals. And they took down LeBron James in the conference finals, sadly losing to Kobe Bryant in the finals. So that could have been a year that LeBron would have faced Kobe Bryant in the NBA finals. But besides, after that, Dwight Howard and the Magic weren't that much of an issue for LeBron James. And then Dwight Howard started jumping from team to team after he left the Lakers, after he left from the Magic to the Lakers. So there's that. Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So this is difficult because they all are in different teams now, or like they've been flip-flopping from teams. But Kevin Durant and the Oklahoma City Thunder made it to the finals 1 year, but they lost to LeBron James in 5 games. The whole problem with that is that team was very young. Then they traded James Harden. You know the story. But it was a tough team for LeBron James to face against, though. There's no denying it. That was a team that LeBron James had issues and that he successfully overcame them eventually one way or the other. And thankfully, then like the whole OKC future dynasty thing never happened because they traded James Harden and then they suffered injuries with Russell Westbrook and then KD taking turns. But yeah. But I mentioned Kevin Durant because he also went to the Warriors, that he joined the Steph Curry and Klay Thompson Splash Brothers, and they were the dynasty that was too much for LeBron. LeBron eventually beat the San Antonio Spurs, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he lost to the Mavericks in the playoffs and the Spurs too, but his record against the Warriors was just abysmal. He only beat them in the finals once, and then the Warriors was just too good. They had too many pieces. And it's crazy because the Warriors went and signed KD after they had won 73 regular season games, breaking Michael Jordan's Bulls record. And they lost in the finals to LeBron James after being up by 3 games. So the Warriors are that dynasty that really put like the whole I don't even know, an asterisk on LeBron's championships, because if it wasn't for the Warriors, I believe LeBron might have more championships because no other opponent would have like beaten him the way that the Warriors did in my eyes. But yeah, there's nothing you could do because that's the era that we were in. And not only that, but LeBron, that's another thing. The Warriors dynasty is the reason that I feel like LeBron elevated himself, because winning the finals that year after being down 3 games to 1 and just being able to succeed in that and like be able to say that they beat the Warriors with the best regular season record in the NBA history, like it adds in there in the totem pole, like in Mount Rushmore and everything. Like it's like wow, the greatest team of all time, and I defeated it. So that's one argument you can say with him. And lastly, last person I'm going to mention is Anthony Davis. He was in the era where LeBron James was in the league in New Orleans when he was playing, but they never faced in the playoffs, so he never was an issue. And now they're teammates in the Lakers, so that's pretty interesting. So yeah, so from my assessment of that, Michael Jordan faced the most adverse. Michael Jordan faced the toughest competition, but LeBron James was the one that wasn't able to get over that competition because he faced the Warriors dynasty and the Spurs. While Michael Jordan faced a couple set of dynasties too, like the Showtime Lakers, but at the later end of their career, he faced a team like the Seattle Supersonics, the Utah Jazz, the Houston Rockets, the Portland Trailblazers, you name it. So I gotta give the advantage on who had the tougher competition, I guess, to LeBron, but who was more successful against that competition, to Michael Jordan. Now, last picture I have here on this PowerPoint is like the notable teammates that they had in their careers and how many All-Star appearances and like other like significant things they have. So this thing that I put it on here, I just want to have it on here so like we can also see like how much the help that they had towards their careers was a significant factor. So for like Michael Jordan, you have Scottie Pippen. He was a 7-time All-Star, and he is a 6-time All-Star with Michael Jordan when they were on the team. But then he was an All-Star like one time without Michael Jordan. But Scottie Pippen, he was like the greatest psychic anyone to have on their team, and he was a good defensive and offensive player. He was a jack of all trades. Man could just ball and defend. Then you get Dennis Rodman. He was an All-Star 2 times, but not only that, but he was a very good defender. Like commentators and media people and old NBA players will all tell you that they think Dennis Rodman was the greatest defensive player they've seen play. So that's there. Like just take into consideration. You got Tony Kukoc, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant. These three people combined have two All-Star appearances, and yeah, I mean Tony Kukoc was your typical European shooter. The man could like just space the floor and was tall. B.J. Armstrong was a point guard that was really tall, and he just knew how to be a floor general. And Horace Grant, that was that enforcer at the power forward position, and the man was really good because before they had the Bulls got Dennis Rodman, he was the one that helped Jordan get up the hump, and he was a really good piece for those Bulls teams. Sadly, he left to go with Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway and the Orlando Magic. But yeah, now lastly, you get Harper, you get Steve Kerr. Like those last two people, no All-Star appearances, but they were very controversial members of those Bulls teams that were successful. So out of all the teammates I just mentioned of Michael Jordan, the total amount of All-Star appearances is 11. Remember that. Now for LeBron James, the amount of teammates that he had that were very significant and notable, we got to start off with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was a dog, and the man in Miami won a chip in '06 with older Shaquille O'Neal even before LeBron got there. So like that already tells you that side of the story. Not only that, but he was a 12-time All-Star. Then you get Chris Bosh, 11-time All-Star. The man was a beast, and he was like one of the first people to start in this era of like, hey yo, I know you're a big guy, but we need you to shoot and stretch the floor. So I feel like Chris Bosh had a lot to do with that in those Miami Heat Big Three teams, and it's pretty good to note out that Chris Bosh was the top star in Toronto, but he left that just to join Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. He was very up for the thing, for the challenge, my bad, for the challenge of let's make a big three. I'll take a step back. I'll just be that big guy that rebounds, blocks, and that shoots threes, and that can spread the floor and do a little bit of everything. He was very good in Toronto, but he took a step down to win championships, and it paid out for him. Sadly, he got block clutch. So I'm one of the people that would have wished Chris Bosh would have been able to play the rest of his career. Then you get Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, members of that Cleveland Cavaliers resurgent team. I'm going to call it a resurgent team because he came back to Cleveland for those teams. Basically, they both had 3 All-Star appearances apiece, making it 6 combined. And yeah, Kyrie Irving was there beforehand, and then when LeBron James got tired of Miami and think he couldn't win there, he went to Cleveland, and then they traded Andrew Wiggins, who was the number 1 pick, and Anthony Bennett, who was the number 1 pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers before that, in return for Kevin Love, who was averaging like 20 and 20. I mean, not 20 rebounds, but he was averaging like 15 rebounds back in Minnesota. He was like a star player, and they proved to be very significant pieces because they won a chip, and they went to the finals all the time together. Then you got to have Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis mentioned because Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis were members of those Miami Heat teams that won chips and that made it to the finals a lot of times. Ray Allen is a 10-time All-Star and one of the greatest shooters, the greatest shooter. Like, the man is Jesus Shuttlesworth. He's on a movie, man. If you don't know about that, look it up. And Rashard Lewis, one of my favorite players because he was a member of the Dwight Howard Orlando Magic team that beat LeBron. He was a 2-time All-Star. He played in Seattle, and he also played in Orlando, where he was he was one of those before, ahead of his time, stretch fours. He was a really good shooter with a weird shot release. But yeah, 2-time All-Stars apiece. Then you get Zydrunas Ilgauskas, one of my favorite centers of all time in basketball, because it's his name. It's really funny. And then he was like 7'1", 7'2". So yeah, he was like the first. I'm gonna say the first good teammate LeBron had because he was in Cleveland, drafted before LeBron was, and he was an All-Star before that too. But he got injured a lot, and he was just really slow. He didn't do that much. Then you gotta mention lastly Mo Williams. Mo Williams was a really good player for those LeBron James teams, although it was kind of overrated in my opinion. He got one All-Star appearance because of it though. And there we go. I mentioned a lot of All-Stars, did I? So Michael Jordan had 11 teammates that were All-Stars 11 times in his career. That's the most. LeBron James had 44 All-Star appearances among their teammates. And those are just the ones I mentioned. Because you could go on with Anthony Davis nowadays, that he is in the Lakers, but yeah, we're not going to do that. But yeah, this shows you that when people say that Michael Jordan had a lot more help than LeBron James, you're lying because Michael Jordan did not have as much help as LeBron James, and that's why Michael Jordan had to take the load of the scoring into his back and just take over every game. You remember when he broke the playoff scoring record? Yeah, there's a reason. Unlike LeBron, where LeBron was just a really, really, really good player that had a really, really good players around him, and that although he makes his teammates better, there you go. So with the end of the debate, I'm gonna have to give it to Michael Jordan, hands down. That's pretty much it. So this is a short episode of my podcast. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen. I hope you like it. Please leave a like, please subscribe, and please stay tuned for the newest content that I'm going to be releasing with the coming weeks. Now that finals are over, I'm done. So the podcast is going to be a 24/7 thing. So thank you and peace.